Hello everyone, my name is FlareBlitzed and welcome back to Eislyn's Apocalypse. Let us seek out the secret ending today. Whichever one is the true ending anyway. Adeline could dimly hear the muffled sounds of families playing and laughing together outside. She was getting used to being in this stranger's attic. She had learned how to stay out of sight and wasn't quite so scared to touch anything anymore. In fact, she managed to find a few things to make her stay a bit more comfortable. A sleeping bag and a space heater among them. She pretended sometimes that she was camping. At first there was a scenario that crossed her mind about why she had to hide during the daytime. She imagined the world had been taken over by monsters, but there were still some humans left alive, living in secret. The monsters patrolled the city by day since humans were known to favour it, but they rested at night. Only then it was safe for humans to emerge from their hiding places. I think it would be the other way round, where at the daytime it would be safer for people to come out, then at night time that's when the monsters come out. She gave up on that make-believe world quickly. It brought to mind too many other horrible things. Real things. But if she didn't have anything to make-believe, then she had to focus on the newfound knowledge in her head, and the thoughts were getting louder and sharper with each passing hour. She hugged her knees, the little stuffed dog she had brought with her resting against her leg. Suddenly, something outside the window caught her eye. She turned to face the window, carefully to move slowly so she wouldn't draw attention. There in the street was a familiar girl with long white hair, Eislyn. Adeline hadn't seen her in a year, but she had made a big impact on Adeline. She'd always wanted to talk to her again. Adeline bit her lip. What should she do? She didn't want anyone to know she was here, yet she desperately wants to talk to her. Then the girl raised her eyes. She smiled as their eyes locked. Adeline gave a small wave and the girl below started heading towards the house. Adeline nervously waited for her to realize how to get inside. When she appeared through the hole in the wall, they both smiled. Hello there. Hi. Hello, Adeline. I've been looking for you. Adeline was so shocked she was speechless for a moment. The girl settled down and sat near her. I know this is kind of sudden. I hope you don't mind the intrusion. So, why did you run away? Want to tell me? Adeline didn't know what to say. It's fine if you don't, for as why I'm looking for you? I had a dream. There was this endless wasteland, and you were there, lying amongst a decayed garden. Really? You had that dream too? Adeline often had nightmares. Not that they scared her. In fact, she loved them. She was used to broken, bizarre landscapes, disturbing creatures and fantastical situations. But this dream really stuck in her mind. It wasn't so much a scary place as a lonely one. It was a world with only her in it. An empty, forgotten, desolated world. She thought it must have come into being to mirror how she felt these days, and it had also felt very real. The fact that this girl also had the same dream made Adeline feel relieved. She felt less alone. A shared dream? I see, so we do share a connection after all. Can I tell you a secret? Sure. Memora is a very special place. You could say that it runs on dreams. Every night a voice whispers into the slumbering hearts of the people who live here. A voice that tells us not to fear, to be kind to others. Most cannot hear it, but some can feel it. It's the voice of Eislyn, the protector of Memora. From the fairy tale? That's right. Eislyn happens to be my name as well. My mother had always loved that story. Eislyn sleeps far below us. She keeps the city going. I believe it is her influence that causes Memora to be one of the most peaceful cities on Earth. She and I have a special connection. I communicate with her often in my dreams, as well as when I'm awake. It's a rare thing to be able to do, and I think a few nights ago, you and I met in a dream as well, perhaps with the help of a slumbering Eislyn. Really? It's almost like this is an alternative timeline to the one that we had faced so far, but except they have memories of the previous timeline. Really? I think we are meant to know one another. But since I met you, I felt like we had a connection. Honestly. Me, too. You're one of the few people who have understood me. Well then, it's nice to officially meet you, Adrian. Nice to meet you, too, Eislyn. They shook hands and then laughed. Honestly, I wish I'd come to see you before. I just didn't want to go back to the orphanage. Not that there's anything wrong with that place, of course. So far. Or maybe the bad events have already happened where Thorndyke have already accepted some adopted children for sacrifices for their monsters. Eislyn laughed with a little hint of nervousness, and something clicked in Adrian's brain. You knew about the murders? Eislyn gasped. Murders? There's been more than one? Tears started to flood Adrian's eyes. It startled her a bit. She had been bottling up this knowledge inside of her all alone, and now, out of nowhere, she had someone she could talk to. Of course you knew. You must have been the one that told my aunt and the other adults back then. Eislyn, I have a secret of my own I need to share. About your connection with the monsters. Investigation. After Adrian explained what had happened, Eislyn was shocked for a couple of reasons. Obviously she was shocked that there have been more murders. She had thought it was a single incident, but she just hadn't managed to hear the slumbering Eislyn's warning in time to save him. She remembered that day well. She had had to lie and pretend that the child was a new friend of hers she had been planning to meet, so she had a reason to know him. She remembered seeing his body and feeling a deep sorrow in her heart, and the echo of a slumbering Eislyn's sorrow as well. But the other reason she was shocked was that over the course of the last year, the slumbering Eislyn hadn't given her any more alerts, despite more children being killed. Surely if she could feel the fear of that one child, she could have felt the others. Surely she would have let her know, since Eislyn was one who could alert the Guardians. Nothing, and over the last few months the slumbering Eislyn has been distant. Something was wrong with the slumbering Eislyn. Something was wrong in Memora, and Eislyn knew she needed help. And Adrian is going to be that link. Eislyn? Your dad doesn't know about the slumbering Eislyn and Nortmere, does he? How could he help us? My father is a private investigator. He also likes to keep tabs on what is happening in the city. I want to ask what information he might have on the children that have died before I talk to the Guardians. As she approached his office, she was once again thankful her father was someone she could depend on. Eislyn, what are you doing here? Hey Dad, sorry to bother you when you're at work. No, it's fine. How are you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. I'm doing well. We were hoping we could ask you some questions. Eislyn squeezed Adrian's hand. She seemed a little weary of Jared. Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm Adrian. Nice to meet you. I'm Jared Varden. So, what's going on? Eislyn explained to her dad about how other kids from the orphanage were going missing and asked if he knew anything about it. Jared paused and stared at the two girls for a couple of moments. He seemed surprised. To tell you the truth, Eislyn, that's what I've been investigating. Really? I didn't want to tell you because I remember how much it hurt you to see... Well, yes, I've been investigating it. Alongside a small group of other concerned people, we dubbed them the Silent Killings. Are you sure you want to know more about them? Yeah. Please. Jard quickly explained the patterns of the missing children, the disappearance of the bodies, and why he suspected Mr. Thorndyke and Miss Nightingale. When he said Miss Nightingale, Adeline froze. Eislyn glanced at her. I'm planning to try and find some evidence tomorrow. From where? It's not important. Don't worry about it, kids. Eislyn looked at the set of Adeline's mouth. She knew why Adeline wanted to know. If this Thorndyke person was responsible, then according to Adeline, there was a monster doing the killing. Jarrod wouldn't be safe, but Adeline could sense any monsters nearby. Should Eislyn explain everything to her father? She wasn't sure. She knew her father would believe her, or try to, but it was a lot to take in. It would be a complete mental shift in how he viewed Memora and this case. But could she convince him to let them tag along without telling him? The answer was almost certainly no. She tried though. Well, obviously it's somewhere this Mr. Thorndyke has connections with. Either a place he owns or frequents. Jarrod sighed. Don't try to guess, Eislyn. I don't want you or your friend involved in this. We kind of are involved in this already, Dad. I've lost one person and she's lost several. Eislyn pointed at Adeline, who nodded. She's from the Nightingale orphanage. You are? Well, sort of. I guess I worded that wrong. I spent most of my time there. Miss Nightingale is my aunt. Eislyn noticed Adeline seemed a bit more determined now. Do you mind if I ask you some questions, Ben? What kind of person is your aunt? I don't think she's the kind of person who would hurt people. I can't imagine that. I don't think she's the type of person who would hurt somebody directly. Adeline's body language was suggesting she was starting to question it, though. I'm not going to answer your questions if you don't answer ours, though. I'm doing this for your own good. It's too dangerous for children to mess around with someone like this. After all, if I'm right, he kills kids. Or sacrifices them to some horrific monster. Never mind then, I'll just figure it out myself. But Eislyn gripped her hand and started walking out. Just hold on. Eislyn stopped, smiled and turned back to face her father. I don't understand why you want to go there so badly. Even if I can't persuade you otherwise, then I'll go with you. But you have to promise me, Eislyn. You too, Adeline. Promise me that you won't try to do anything on your own. I promise. Adeline looked at Eislyn with concern, then nodded her head. I promise. Alright, let's go. This is definitely a hypothetical scenario. They took to the streets then, Jarrod leading them a little ways ahead. Adeline turned to whisper at Eislyn. Are you sure that's a promise we can keep? If there's a monster there, we can't let your dad confront it, and I doubt the police will be able to do anything. Relax, there are people whose sole purpose is to guard Memora against attacks from Nortmere. Oh right, the Guardians. Neither of us are going to be working alone. But if their purpose is to stop anything under Nortmere's influence, how are they going to react to me? Eislyn hesitated. She knew that was a slippery slope. I'll explain things to them, carefully. It's best if you let me do it. Alright. They were entering a more industrial part of Memora now. Suddenly a place Eislyn wouldn't have gone exploring on her own. It made sense though. If this Thorndyke person was a super rich businessman, he probably owned or managed a factory. Something started to bubble up in the back of Eislyn's mind. The world around her felt brighter. Was the slumbering Eislyn trying to contact her? She waited, but no word came. The feeling only got stronger though. It started to feel like something's off. Adeline glanced over when Eislyn whispered, What? It feels like I'm near the slumbering Eislyn. But that's impossible. You mean she's here? No, she can't be. And yet I'm sensing something similar. By the time they reached their destination, there was no mistaking it. Somewhere ahead there was something physical, similar to the slumbering Eislyn's corporal form. A factory loomed above them. As Adrian stared at it, she narrowed her eyes. I can definitely sense a monster as well. Jara turned to look back at them. This is the place. Satisfied? Both of them jumped as his voice snapped them out of their focus. Yes, thank you. Now, please, leave the rest to me. In a way, this is hypothetical, but it still follows the same events as before. Samara. Reading at the park, enjoying the peaceful atmosphere, what better way to spend an afternoon? Samara was enjoying her day off from work and thinking about how she could help out with volunteer work tomorrow. She thought she had everything planned out until a familiar face came into view. Hello, Eislyn. Enjoying the weather? I've actually been looking for you, Samara. I need the help of the Guardians. Memora may be in danger. Samara stared at Eislyn. She was, for the Guardians, the voice of Memora's Eislyn. She was an oddity, someone who was closely connected to Eislyn, even more so than any Guardian. So closely she could actually hear her even when she was awake. Did you mean asleep? The Guardians actually referred to Memora's Eislyn and this girl interchangeably. After all, they couldn't understand the one without the other. So if she said something was wrong, she was to be taken seriously. What's happened? Eislyn told her about the silent killings and how she asked her father to take her to Thorndyke's factory. When I approached, I could sense Eislyn there, as if a part of her body resided there. She's also been silent for the last few months. I assumed she was just busy and had nothing important to say, but now I'm wondering if she's actually unable to converse with me. I'm not sure though, but there are other reasons I suspect something is wrong with the factory. I'd like to have some Guardians accompany me there to check it out, as soon as possible. I understand, I'll call everyone. Samara quickly activated her communicator, her book forgotten. Lovely. Eislyn again. Light below. Thankfully, the Guardians had a system in place so that they could respond to a situation at any time. There were always at least a few people free to deal with stuff like this. Eislyn silently walked alongside a group of Guardians towards the Steelworks factory. When they got close, Adrian moved closer towards her and whispered to her, Eislyn, the monster, it's leaving the factory. Oh dear. Eislyn stopped and called the Guardians to attention. She called out a few of their names, including Samara's, and the smaller group went into an alley to talk. I was hoping this could wait until later, but there's something I have to explain to you. I trust all of you, and I know you trust me. They all murmured agreement. I need to introduce you all to Adrian. Like me, she's a special girl. Adrian tensed but stayed still as the smiling faces of the Guardians turned towards her. She has a special ability. She can track the children of Nortmere, sense the monsters he has sent. But that doesn't mean she's connected to Nortmere, yes. But she wants to help us. I've known her for a while now. I actually met her last year. It's because of her that I was made aware of the situation with Thorndyke. And I'm sure that she's connected to Eislyn as well. A pulse went through Eislyn. She smiled. For the first time in months, the slumbering Eislyn contacted her, and it was to confirm her belief. Eislyn thought, does this mean you're coming back now? I'm entrusting this task to you because I know you'll do you'll do what's right. Adrian is on our side. The Guardians nodded. Alright. And don't tell any of the other Guardians about Adrian. We understand. What is this task anyway? There's a monster Adrian has sensed leaving the factory. You are to follow it with her help and stop it from hurting anyone. The Guardians looked shocked. Samara nodded with grim determination. Of course. Show us the way, Adarain. Okay. Adarain nodded and led the way down the alley. Eislyn went back to the main group of Guardians and they continued their march. When they arrived at the factory, they spread out and surrounded it. Eislyn, Warren, and a couple of other Guardians entered. A couple of workers spotted them and came over. Who are you guys? What are you doing here? We need to investigate the premises. Who is in charge here? Hold up, are you guys cops? Because you sure don't look like it. What gives you the right to come in here? We are the Guardians of Memora. We're above the police. If you want, we can call the chief of police and he can confirm it. What the? You bet we're getting the police on the phone? Go on ahead. I'll clear this up and catch up with you guys. No, you can't just walk right in. One of the Guardians activated a light bearer. The worker shrunk back, shocked at the sudden burst of light. We don't have time for this. You're the ones under suspicion right now. We have surrounded the factory, and if you give us any trouble, we have no qualms entering by force. While that is true, you could have put that a bit more delicately. Yeah, ironic coming from somebody who is somehow connected to Nightmare himself. A double agent, as if it were. Warren seemed to be holding back laughter as the workers let the Guardians go in, a bait with angry stares following them the whole way. Do you feel anything? Yes, what is it? It's in the basement. So whatever it is, I mean. Let's go. Let's go to the basement. They made their way to the back and down a flight of stairs. At the bottom was a heavy steel door that could be shut remotely. We need to be careful. The others murmured agreement. They carefully made their way down the hallways. Eislyn guiding their way, they soon came up to a locked door. One of the Guardians broke the door down. Inside were bright, shining orbs stacked up all the way to the ceiling on metal shelves. Eislyn slowly walked up to them. She touched one. He's stealing her power. This is Eislyn's light in a concentrated form. One of the Guardians cursed in anger. This is unforgivable. How much has he taken? Eislyn the Guardian searched several other locked rooms, all filled to the brim. How long has he been doing this? Long enough to weaken Eislyn. What is he even doing this for? I don't know, but we need to get these underground and return them to Eislyn. Suddenly someone appeared in a dark hallway. Who are you people? Who are you? That, Warren said as he approached the group, is Thorndyke. I see. May I please speak with you, Mr. Thorndyke? You think I'm going to entertain a trespasser? Get off my property, brat. You should not address her like that. We are the Guardians of Memora and we have this factory surrounded. What? You're under arrest, Mr. Thorndyke. Lovely. Tracking. Tracking a monster. The Guardians chased after Adarain as she ran desperately down the streets. No! What's wrong? It's headed for the orphanage. Samara grits her teeth. This fiend must have been responsible for the silent killings. Well, it wasn't going to take any more lives, not on Samara's watch. I'm going to run ahead. If it changes direction, send an alert. Right. Samara sprinted down the streets, her train allowing her to move swiftly. She activated her light bearer as the orphanage came into view. It all looked so discordantly normal, just like any other day. Samara wondered on how many other normal days this monster had feasts. But where was it? How was it going to take a child? Suddenly Samara heard a shout from the garden, quickly muffled. You. She leaped over the wall and saw a tall man wearing a cloak. In his arms was what appeared to be the gardener. And who are you supposed to be? The man's eyes were pure white. A monster in disguise. Samara readied herself. Drop him! The monster cackled. He dropped the gardener, who crawled across the grass in a shocked panic. Well, I guess I have no choice but to deal with you first. Well then. The monster leaped over the wall and onto the street. Samara followed and saw his flesh start to melt and reform into a huge, hideous monster. It lunged to her and swung her light bearer, cutting into his flesh. He yelled as it burned, but the cut was quickly covered by his sediment flesh. He attacked again, and Samara dodged. The fight was a bit of a blur. Samara got a lot of hits in, but they weren't doing as much damage as she thought they would, and the monster continued its advance towards her. She fought hard until the other guardians showed up, and then she switched out. Adrien ran up to her. Are you okay? Yeah, just taking a break. We'll stop this thing. The monster looked at Adrien in surprise as she flinched. She quickly turned her gaze back to Samara. Was anyone hurt? The monster went after a guy I believe is a gardener. He's alright, I think. A gardener? Her eyes went wide and she ran towards the orphanage. Samara figured she must have known him. A crowd of children was forming in the orphanage's garden. Samara shouted at them to get inside. Back inside. The monster, sensing an opportunity, leaped over the guardians and into the garden. He picked up one of the screaming children. Well, well, there's a few too many of you here for my taste. Back off or this child dies. The child screamed louder and louder, and Samara tensed. This monster was strangely resistant to Eislyn's light. A powerful monster. Was there anything they could do to stop him from leaving? Could they save this child? Samara noticed someone moving in the foliage behind the monster. It was Adrien. Finally, reinforcements. Samara tensed as the monster turned around, but Adrien quickly overturned a wheelbarrow full of dirt. No, flying into the air a bit, and onto the monster. The monster howled in surprise and let the child go. It ran off quickly. Adrien followed him to the wall of the garden. Samara quickly caught up to her, but she had stopped moving. He's moving so fast, I can't track him. Sorry. It's alright. You're pretty strong. Yeah. Samara smiled at her. Thank you for all your help. You saved that man and that child's life. Adrien smiled shyly. Ah. Whoa, Adrien, you helped beat that monster? That's amazing. Thank you. Children from the orphanage swarmed around Adrien then, asking her questions and talking about the fight they had just witnessed. Inside here, a setback. The more setbacks, the better. Deep below, entwined in the twisting dark tunnels that monsters had spent years carving below Memora, was a monster named Insidia. She carefully watched and waited and planned for her base down below. She had eyes on the city. She knew even before Gal arrived that he bore bad news. Insidia, I was attacked by guardians just now. Yes, it does seem the guardians have found us out early. This is troublesome, but we can still... It was Adrien leading them. Really? How peculiar. Peculiar? Peculiar? She's turned against us! Calm down, Gal. Wheels were turning inside of Insidia's head. Something unexpected had happened to change the dynamic underlying Memora. But it wasn't like she hadn't prepared for this possibility. If you are hurt, please take some time to recover. But what are we going to do about Adrien? Well, if what you say is true and she is working with the Guardians at the moment, her ability to sense us means we've lost the element of surprise. Is it true? Yes, of course. But the fact that the Guardians know of your existence also means we've been discovered. It's fine though, honestly. All it means is the Battle of Memora is starting a day or two early. The biggest blow is the Guardians uncovering Thorndyke's little experiment. If they return that stuff to Eislyn, she'll regain the power she's lost. They what? Yes. I think the best option is to quickly release the corruption that will allow the factory workers to mutate. This should prevent the Guardians from taking too much of Eislyn's power back. It's a good thing this happened now rather than a week or so earlier. all I have to do is... Insidia concentrated and sent a signal along her metal cables. It raced down through the tunnels and towards the factory. And done. This should give those guardians something to play with for a little while. Gull still seemed to be stewing. As for Adarain, I'd like to take her somewhere where she can't interface. Even still, though, I doubt her actions will turn the tides in favour of the Guardians. It is a bit of a shame. I'd hoped to take them by surprise and overwhelm them with our superior strength all at once. But worry not, Gal. We still have the advantage. Let us prepare for war. Great. Inside Eislyn, Distortion. Eislyn watched as several Guardians started to carry the orbs of light out of the factory. Samara has sent an alert. Apparently she found the monster. The rest of the Guardians in Memora are going to start investigating if there are any more hidden within the barrier. Nordmere. I can't believe he managed to get this far without us even noticing. Making it so the slumbering Eislyn couldn't keep as keen an eye on Memora was a crafty plan, alright. He basically took out our eyes. It makes me wonder if we rely on her a bit too much. What do you mean? You know, my dad used to work in a city beyond Memora. He's one of the best private investigators in the city because he used to work much harder cases. There's something my dad says sometimes. Peace is something to be celebrated, but it doesn't prepare you for war. If you get too comfortable, you start to forget how to fight at all. We've gotten comfortable while relying on Eislyn to tell us when something goes wrong. You may have a point there. So what are you going to do with Thorndyke? I've already spoken to the Chief of Police. We're going to hold him at a police station for now. See just how deep he's in with Nordmere. Many of the Guardians had gone upstairs. All of a sudden they started shouting. Warren immediately snapped into action. He ran up the stairs. Eislyn trailing behind him a bit more slowly. When she reached the top, she saw a battlefield. Humans were dissolving into monsters and attacking the Guardians. Eislyn realized that they must have been slowly being corrupted by Nordmere over time. I need a light bearer. She said this to a nearby Guardian who gave her a spare. Eislyn quickly activated it and created a giant pulse of light. All of the newly created monsters shrank away from it, and the ones close to Eislyn started to turn black. Their skin flacked away and revealed their original human forms. Whoa! I didn't know you could do that! Keep your guard up, there are still a lot of monsters here. There was a screech of metal that echoed throughout the factory as a giant piece of machinery started to fall down. A guardian in its path just barely dodged out of the way. Alright, if it's a fight they want. Warren and the other Guardians charged into battle. Alert. Samara. Samara smiled as Adarain talked to the kids from the orphanage. The Guardians had regrouped outside of the orphanage, save one who went in to explain what was going on to the staff, as well as check up on the man from the garden. When she returned, she addressed the group. Eislyn said that her father suspected Miss Nightingale's involvement, correct? She's not here? I asked one of the staff members and she said she had been planning to go on a trip for a while and left early. Just a little while ago, in fact. I see. We should send an alert for the Guardians to keep an eye out for her. I'd like to question her. The man that monster attacked seems to be fine. Apparently he noticed a couple of kids leaving their houses before they went missing. Perhaps the monster went after him to keep him silent. They must be quite intelligent in order to hide so well for so long, not to mention they are most likely working with humans. The Guardians were grimly silent for a moment. No one liked the idea. Samara heard an alert come in. She looked down at her device and gasped. There's another signal coming from the factory. Monsters have swarmed the outside of the building as well. They're surrounded. Another Guardian checked a new alert. The old guardian who is in charge of the healing gardens have also given an alert that some sick people from the healing gardens have turned into monsters and they are inflicting others. That could be where the monsters are coming from. This isn't good. Eislyn might be in trouble. Jared. Sidelines. As evening came, Jared figured he had better call home before nightfall to talk to Eislyn. When his wife answered though, Jared learned that she hadn't even gone home yet. He started to get a bad feeling about it and decided to go check out the factory again, just in case. He wasn't even able to get close. Police had blocked the streets that led to it. Jared walked around the whole perimeter, but there was no way inside. What in the world was happening in there? And more importantly, was Eislyn there? Eislyn wasn't one to break promises, but something in Jared's gut told him that she was nearby. Assuming that was true, how was he supposed to get to her? Jared! Jared turned around. There stood Eislyn's friend, Adrian. For some reason, now that he saw her standing there without Eislyn, he felt as though he knew her from somewhere. She also paused for a moment and it looked like she thought the same thing. Eislyn. Escape scene! As day gave way to night, it seemed like the Guardians were going to be stuck inside of a steelworks factory forever. They had managed to defeat the monsters that were created from the factory workers themselves, freeing them and turning them human again. This also had the unfortunate side effect of generating more civilians that needed protection. And the more monsters with human origins that came to fight the Guardians, which were seemingly endless at this point, just exacerbated the problem. At this point, the Guardians were locked in place near the places that monsters could enter from, and the civilians were herded towards the back of the factory. We aren't going to be able to fight this many off on our own, Eislyn. Take as many orbs as you can. We'll clear a path for you, and then you need to get out of here. Alright. If she left, then no one could turn the monsters human anymore. A lot of people had died already, but it was true that on her own, Eislyn had no way of defeating all the monsters. Perhaps the best course of action was to reunite with the slumbering Eislyn and return some of her power. She slowly backed away from the battle and ran to the basement alongside some Guardians. The Guardians filled up a bag with orbs and then escorted her to a nearby exit. Of course there would be monsters there. Creating a wall of light around Eislyn using their light bearers, they tunneled through the horde of monsters. Eislyn also created her own blast of light, giving them further protection, of course. As soon as they broke through, Eislyn took off running. She made her way to the streets and past the line the police had made. She started to move towards the nearest entrance to the Guardian's base, where she saw two familiar faces, Jared and Adrian. We know what must be done. Trio. After stopping the monster at the orphanage, Adrian was relieved. The Guardian was one of her few friends and she was glad he was safe. It also felt like more than that, strangely. On the way over, she felt certain he was going to die? She didn't even know why she thought that, but it seemed so certain. And then he was saved. It was like a miracle. What are we even going on about? Then Memora said that Eislyn might be in danger, but fear settled back in and she ran with the Guardians all the way back to the factory. But once they reached the police barrier, she had been told to stay behind. It was too dangerous for her, Memora had said. All the monsters were concentrating their efforts there, so she was left behind where it was safe. Adrian didn't know what to do, and then she had run into Jared, who was in the same predicament as her. Okay, so this is like a recap. Together they tried to find a way to get to Eislyn when they saw her running towards them. You're alright. Jared hugged the rather surprised Eislyn. I told your dad everything was going on. I hope that's okay. Eislyn blinked at the two of them, then she laughed. I guess it was inevitable. With everything that's been going on, sorry for the shock, Dad. Are you doing alright, Eislyn? Do you need any help with anything? Actually, I'm glad I ran into the two of you. Can you guys come with me? I'm headed underground. What's underground? Jared said as they started to run, Eislyn leading them. Adrian explained the Guardians to you. We're going to their base. After that, they were mostly silent until they arrived. As they entered, Eislyn explained what the tunnels were and how the slumbering Eislyn lived here beneath Memora. When they got close to the chamber, she stopped. Can you wait here, Dad? He laughed. Sorry, it feels like we've done this before. Really now? It does. Eislyn smiled and nodded. Adrian had been feeling a strong sense of deja vu ever since he had run into Jared again. It seemed like everyone else had felt the same way. I'm proud of you, both of you. Ah. Adrian felt warmth bubbling up inside of her. She gave a smile and then turned and ran with Eislyn into the depths of Memora. Memories awakening. And there she was. There wasn't much to say as Adrian and Eislyn sped towards the slumbering Eislyn's chamber. They focused on running as fast as they could. When they arrived, Adrian gasped at the view. Eislyn overturned the bag and all the orbs of light dropped into the cavern below Memora. They dropped so far that Eislyn couldn't even see them anymore, but when they got close to the slumbering Eislyn, they burst into rays of light. The slumbering Eislyn no longer felt so distant inside of Eislyn's mind. Just that little bit was enough to change something, and then something unexpected happened. For the first time in centuries, the slumbering Eislyn woke up. What? Whoa. Excuse me? That doesn't look too grand. The color of red, that is. Her eyes were a deep rose color, and images of flowers shifted and danced within them. Looking into them was like looking into a waking dream. They were so large they filled Eislyn's entire vision. Happiness flowed openly between the two Eislyns. Thank you both. It's nice to meet you. Adrian spoke a little shyly. Eislyn could feel her namesake turn her focus to Adrian, radiating love. Hello, Adrian. I have longed to meet you. Ever since I found out you were a child of both mine and not... Oh, both? Both mine and Nortmir's. Huh? All who reside in Memora and some who reside beyond it, I consider my children. We are all connected, sharing the same fate. I have a favor to ask of you, Adrian. Okay, what is it? I must go beyond the earth to fight Nortmir. However, I do not wish this all to end in violence. You must strengthen the bond with your father. Show him the world through your eyes. What? But he's evil, and what if I become like those monsters? Eislyn quickly took Adrian's hand. I'll help you, don't worry. Have faith. I must go. Wait! Eislyn watched as the newly awakened Eislyn's form turned to light and disappeared through the ceiling of the cabin. Well, that was definitely hypothetical for Memora. When Samara arrived at the factory perimeter, it was chaos. There were guardians fighting from within the circle of monsters, and there were other guardians circling the monsters. And yet the monsters still seemed to keep coming, from underground, from the rooftops. Somewhere inside were Eislyn and Warren. Eislyn escaped. She set to work quickly, hacking away at monsters, trying to clear a section of them, trying to gain some ground, but they never stopped coming. Any ground gained was lost in an instant. After a while of fighting like that, the monsters started to scream. Ooh. Samara wasn't sure why at first, but then her light bearer started to blaze up brighter than normal, and then a sudden sheet of light, like fog but glowing, enveloped everything. The monsters burned, all turning back into humans at once. Lights burst inside of the factory like fireworks, and that's when Samara realized This light was Eislyn. Eislyn, rising from her slumber, rising up into the sky. She looked up. Eislyn was expanding, her form growing larger and larger, brighter and brighter as she flew all the way to outer space. Eislyn had come, taken all her power back and destroyed the army of monsters in an instant, and now she was off to fight NaNoRenO. Most of the Guardians stood there, looking to the sky in wonder, but their gazes quickly returned to Earth. This event also meant Eislyn was gone. She was no longer protecting Memora. It was up to the Guardians to stop the remaining monsters from wreaking more havoc. The first thing in Memora's mind, though, was Eislyn and Warren. She ran inside and looked around for them. There's Warren. She saw Warren giving orders to the other Guardians. It seemed they were trying to round up all of the cleansed civilians. She ran over to him. Are you alright? Where's Eislyn? I'm fine. Eislyn left a while ago. Oh, of course, that's why Eislyn's awake. I thought so. That light was Eislyn then. Yes, she's off to fight NaNoRenO. NaNoRenO? For a second, Warren looked distant. Memories tickled Tamara's mind. She had a dream a few nights past, one in which Warren grew more and more distant until her voice couldn't reach him anymore. Yes, that old thing. Warren laughed, but it was mirthless. NaNoRenO. I always used to dream about defeating him one day. I hate to admit it, but I was kind of glad when we were called to action. When I found out there was an actual invasion in Memora, I thought I finally had a chance to prove myself. But something inside told me not to follow that path, and sure enough I had my hands full just with these monsters. There was no way I could have taken on NaNoRenO himself. You did prove yourself. Warren started when he saw her. Samara knew that tears were filling her eyes. She was also smiling. She didn't know why she felt so emotional right now, but she wasn't going to fight it. You protected all these people, protected Eislyn. It couldn't have been easy, being stuck inside this factory with no way out. I'm sure your presence helped keep everyone calm. You've always been like that, always helped lead everyone. You're a dedicated warrior. I've always looked up to you, you know, ever since I was a kid. Seeing your passion motivated me. Warren gasped and then smiled. I've always looked up to you too. You're caught up to me so quickly, and are always helping people. I felt like I was a step away from leaving everyone behind sometimes, just so that I could take a chance on that dream of mine. The thought of you held me together. Well then, I guess we'll just have to lean on each other, huh? They shared a hug and then did what Guardians do, help people. It's nice that they've got each other bond. The three of them were once again running through the city. High above, beyond the stars, light and darkness swirled around the earth. This time they were running towards a park. Not just any park though. Remember how in the story of Eislyn and NaNoRenO, Eislyn had to go atop a mountain to battle NaNoRenO? Well, that wasn't entirely accurate, but it is true that proximity helps strengthen our connection to one another. I'm sure it's the same with Adrain. The park that has the tallest hill is up ahead. Jarrod grasped the light bearer he borrowed tightly in his hand. Once again he felt as though he'd used one of these before. Memories coming from a different timeline. Eislyn apparently had some way of contacting the Guardians, and when they arrived at the park they found quite a few of them waiting. The Guardians set up a perimeter and Jarrod, Eislyn and Adrain climbed to the top of the tallest hill. Whoa. Into space. Jarrod waited a little ways away to give them some privacy. It was a silent, starry night, yet the sky above also swirled with colours and shapes. There was a battle raging up there that couldn't have been seen, such was the scale. Eislyn, Thorndyke, NaNoRenO and Memora. There was so much he hadn't known. The world seemed so much stranger than it did yesterday. But there was one thing that would never change. He would always protect his daughter. He would always try his best to help everyone, in any way he could, even if he was just one small speck in a cosmic war. Light flashed at the bottom of the hill. So, monsters had come. They were fighting with the Guardians, but the Guardians held their ground, until a monster that looked like a coiling mass of metal cables showed up. She was able to quickly and effectively break through the lines of Guardians. It's inside her. Her form changed to resemble a human more, and she started to climb the hill. Jared readied himself. He wasn't sure if he could defeat a monster, not one that several Guardians have been useless against, but he had to try. What have we here? Some random human on a hill? Can you even use that? Jared created a blade with the light bearer and slashed forward. She dodged it easily. Well, I guess so. But let us face facts. You don't have the skills the Guardians do. So why don't you just step aside, let me grab my little sister and leave before I rip you to shreds? Jared stood his ground. I'm not going anywhere. Oh, well. She instantly knocked him over using a metal cable that bent into the dark grass. Give up. Last chance to run. Jared quickly got to his feet, but what could he do? He simply wasn't strong enough to protect Eislyn and Eislyn. What do I have available to me? No. The only weapon that would work on me monsters was the light bearer. Why was he so sure of that? Memories tickled his mind. He'd been having strange dreams lately, hadn't he? He could hardly remember them, but he remembered a scenario just like this, beaten by this monster, beaten by another, and each time one of the children behind him now had to save him. It was his turn to save them. Now, how did Eislyn do it? A huge burst of light. Eislyn's light. Eislyn's power was within dreams. Memora's power came from dreams. And what were dreams but the memories and the soul of a person mixing together? He concentrated on his memories. He channeled the love he felt for his daughter, the desire to save a girl he had just met, the desire to save the children of this city from suffering anymore. The light that burst forth made it look like the sun had risen again over the hill. The monster screamed and shrank back. How? She seethed with rage as she tried to press forward as the light faded slightly. Jared simply held his ground, the light pulsing around them. There was no way forward for her. How? This power. Why does it remind me of a bond I have with Father? How could a worthless human, she looked genuinely lost, create a bond more powerful than the one I have with Father? Jared stared at her. The bond that has created this light is similar. A bond between a father and their child, but this bond is not fueled by mutual hatred, but mutual love. She stared at him, uncomprehending. She looks like a child to him now. Good. Connection with NaNoRenO. How do I do this? Closing your eyes might help. Whatever part of you feels monsters, concentrate on that. Eislyn did just that. She closed her eyes and remembered the first time she had sensed her monster friend. She had been so happy then, but it hadn't taken her long to realize that this connection was really a curse. The first thing that Eislyn realized once she strengthened her connection to NaNoRenO was her role. She realized why her father had brought her to Earth. To destroy Eislyn. To destroy her using one of her own children. To destroy her in the most vicious way possible. I cannot do this! Eislyn shut her mind down. Hey, it's okay. Eislyn slid next to her and put her arm around her shoulder. Remember, you're in control here. No, I'm not. Has Eislyn ever tried to take over your mind? Make you hurt someone? Eislyn hesitated. Didn't think so, Adrien thought. That won't happen. Have faith in yourself. You have more power than you think. No, I don't. You do. Celestials. Awakened Eislyn. Where's her portrait? It had been centuries since Eislyn had seen Nightmare face to face. Seeing him now filled her heart with sorrow. His body was little more than a shadow, his features hard and twisted. So you finally faced me, you coward. His screech was like metal, vibrating through the universe. He lunged forward, but she floated away nimbly. Your face. You even look like them now. His voice was venomous. She doubted if there was any way to change his heart after centuries of this poison. Yet she hoped in Adrien. Have you nothing to say to me? I never wanted to hurt you. You think I accept apology now? It isn't an apology, though I do have sympathy for you. But there is no universe in which I would have allowed you to bring harm to the people of this planet. You care about them more than you ever cared about me. Traitor to your own kind. He roared and struck at her. She used her powers of light to prevent injury to herself, but he was going berserk. Talking was meaningless now. Indeed it was, against a deity of evil. She only hoped that she could hold him off for long enough. Come on, Adrien. Come on, love. You can do it. There's nothing I can do. That's not true, Adrien. Hey, can I tell you something? What? That dream we shared? I think it was a memory. A memory? That's where dreams come from, after all. Our imaginations and our memories makes to create a whole new reality, I believe. What you may very well have saved as well. So what you did may very well have saved our world, huh? Think about it. If that was a memory, then the earth had turned to ash. There was nothing left. I never thought of you as evil, Adrien. Your nightmare saved us. You, Nightmare. Neither of you are inherently evil. He's hurting, and he wants to hurt others. It's wrong of him, and the only one who has a chance of showing him that is you. Show him your world. Show him what you see. Show him your pain, fear, and loss. Show him your empathy, your courage. Show him what it means to live. Adrien closed her eyes again. A memory. Adrien did sort of remember. She remembered Nightmare triumphant in his desolate kingdom. She remembered how sad and broken they had both been. She remembered how peaceful she felt when she drifted away, Eislyn at her side. She remembered lonely days. She remembered trying again and again anyway. She remembered finding people who understood her. She remembered fighting alongside others. She remembered wanting to save others. Her sorrow and pain when she couldn't. Her joy when she did. She remembered the happiness of feeling connected to her kin, and then the despair it gave her. Adrien realized she could feel her whole family. All the monsters left in Memora. She felt inside her nearby on a hill. She could feel her start to see a world of light within herself. One she's never known before, and she felt her confusion and fright because she had no idea what it was. And she could feel Nightmare, silent, listening, looking, deep inside, but both of their memories. In the sky above, the chaos ceased. Other memories made their way into Adrien's mind. Memories of the endless space beyond the earth, travelling side by side with the one he loved. All the colours that humans have never seen. All the quiet conversations, the harmony of silence, all the abandoned emotions that used to course through his being, and then sudden realization that humans felt just as deeply as he once did. And Adrian could feel Eislyn, in fact both Eislyns, silently trying to say, This is why you fought, can't you see? And because he allowed a connection to Adrian, now he could, for the first time, he had allowed himself to see through the eyes of a human child. Adrian felt him mourn for the lost years, but this time there was still a glimmer of hope left for a life that could still be lived. Epilogue. Whoa. We don't know who this is though. There's no character. Whoa. Isn't that a beautiful sight? Peace reigned once again in Memora, but a lot of things have changed. Everyone knew who Eislyn was now. Everyone in Memora had been able to see her rise up into the sky. Everyone knew about the monsters spreading havoc throughout the city and how they had suddenly stopped. And everyone knew who the Guardians were, though their task was now complete. No one needs to fear NaNoRenO any longer. The awakened Eislyn no longer lived in Memora. She and NaNoRenO had found an empty world nearby and made it their home. Together they tried to give a new life to the monsters, whose sole purpose before had been to destroy. Feels like there's a lot of context that could have been added. A lot of spaces which have been forcefully stepped over. Like for example, the communication between Adrian and NaNoRenO. Like, what was the connection between the two of them in this space of the game? Rather than just simply forcing the game to accept that this was reality. Eislyn could still hear her voice every once in a while, and she promised to visit one day. Despite the absence of Memora's Eislyn, the city remained quite peaceful. Her spirit after centuries still left its mark. Samara and Warren worked together to rebuild that which was destroyed by the monsters. Thorndyke and Miss Nightingale have been arrested. It turned out that, like Adrian, Miss Nightingale had always had a hard time fitting in as child here in Memora. Over time, she had grown to resent this perfect city and her perfect sister. Seeking revenge, she allowed her sister's baby to be corrupted by NaNoRenO and then founded an orphanage so she could sacrifice her children. Learning about what her aunt had done made Adrian sad, but looking back on their life together, it made sense. Her aunt had always seemed bitter behind her facade. Part of her had always wondered why she wanted to work with children. But Adrian wasn't going to be alone now that her family was gone. Gerald and Rosa Varden adopted her. Eislyn and Adrian were happy to be sisters. Everyone had a chance to move ahead now and live their lives. Memora and all those who resided within, all those connected to its hopes and dreams, had been saved. The end. And that, folks, is the secret / true / hidden ending of Eislyn's Apocalypse. So in a way, this is definitely Eislyn as we see right now, but it is Adrian entirety, ultimately. She was the one who, in a way, not brought the monsters, but was like a signal for them to be like a monster on the earth itself, just as like an amplifier for NaNoRenO, along with Insidia and Gal. But that was a nice game, a nice visual novel. But there are a lot of points within the game where a lot of context was missing. A lot of in-between dialogue that could have been added so that the game itself would have a lot more context to it. Like for example at the very end there could have been a conversation between NaNoRenO and Adrian and the struggles that Adrian had about how NaNoRenO could see through the eyes of a child which are living on Earth. rather than being this deity that is floating around in space, trying to get through into the Earth because of its barrier that was created by awakened Eislyn to keep him away. But that was a nice visual novel. A nice apocalyptic visual novel in itself. 4 of those 5 endings definitely bad, as in bad outcome. Thinking that the 4th ending, where Adrienne was the only one left, that I believe was her kind of last wish. It was the gateway to the secret ending of the game. Thank you all so much for watching, guys. This has been Eislyn's Apocalypse. Please check this game out for yourselves. There's a link down in the description below where you can download this game for yourself and play it. It is completely for free. You don't pay anything for it. But thank you all so much for watching, and take care of yourselves.